Hello everybody, it's Non-Scene News here, and today we've got a lot of breaking dates today. So the first news come today is coming from Russia, where we've got news that Putin has rejected the Trump administration's offer to delay Ukraine's NATO membership for at least 10 years as a condition for ending the war. So on December the 26th, Vladimir Putin stated that it didn't matter whether Ukraine joined NATO today, tomorrow, or in 10 years. It is not going to happen. So Putin has rejected Trump's proposal to to delay Ukraine's NATO membership for at least 10 years in offer for peace in Ukraine, but it seems that Putin has rejected this. We've also got news today that Putin apologizes for the tragic incident involving the Azerbaijani airplane in Russian airspace, offering condolences to victims and families. So in yesterday's video, we talked about how there was theories that Russia shot down an Azerbaijani airline plane that was making its way to Kazakhstan. So the Kremlin actually confirms that the air defense systems were active during Ukrainian attacks near the city of Grozny and near Chechnya, but it doesn't actually clarify. The Kremlin doesn't actually clarify if the plane was hit by Russian air defense systems, but in the end, the plane crash resulted in the deaths of 38 passengers. We've also got some news today from the Russian Navy. So the Russian Navy has just received a new multi-purpose nuclear submarine called the K-564 Anklech. So if you can see here in your bottom left corner, we can see this new Russian nuclear submarine that has been unveiled, and that is going to be joining the Russian Navy. So this was out of the project of 885 NM. So the Russian Navy has received another nuclear submarine. We've also got news today that the Oblast of Crimea has declared an emergency state after a huge oil spill that happened in the Kerch Strait. If you remember in the past couple of videos, we talked about how there was 3 Russian oil tankers that tragically sunk in the Kerch Strait due to weather conditions, and obviously the oil tankers were carrying tons of oil, and as a result of them sinking, huge amounts of oil had been rolling up in the shores of Krasnodar Oblast and the Crimean Oblast, resulting in marine life being damaged, especially in the Black Sea. So the Crimea and the Krasnodar and basically all surrounding oblasts are now declaring an emergency state due to this huge oil spill fallout that is happening right now, and I'll keep you updated on that. We've also got news that the Gazprom Russian oil pipeline will stop supplies to Moldova from 8 a.m. Moscow time on January the 1st, 2025, due to the Moldova gas debt. So Moldova will no longer be receiving any Russian gas due to Moldova's debt. So there you go. We've also got some news coming from Ukraine, coming from a Ukrainian World War II monument. So if you see this monument here, it's one of the most famous monuments in Ukraine, World War II monuments in Ukraine. So around this huge monument of the Alley of Hero Cities, located within the museum, Ukraine has decided to actually remove the cities of Moscow and Minsk off the the Alley of Hero Cities that liberated Kiev in during the Second World War. So Kiev has removed the cities of Moscow and Minsk off the World War II monuments. So Moscow and Minsk is gone. So very interesting news. We've also got news today that Ukraine is now the most mined country in the world today. Reports the media. So as early of 2024, 156,000 square kilometers of territory remain potentially hazard due to mines. So Ukraine is now labeled the most mined country in the world. We've also got news today that Greece will transfer 24 RIM-7 Sparrow anti-aircraft missiles to Ukraine. Greek media reported that Athens will provide Ukraine with at least, with these missiles from its reserves of the RIM-7 Sparrows. The RIM-7 Sparrows are a medium-range anti-aircraft missile used to protect against air attacks. We've also got some news today that the US is to send 1.25 billion US dollars in weapons to Ukraine, pushing to get aid out before Biden leaves office. So the US is trying to push out one last major aid package to Ukraine just before, obviously, Trump takes over as the president of the United States. We've also got news today that Ukrainian F-16s were flying somewhere over Ukraine. So far, US-made F-16s have only been used for air defense, intercepting cruise missiles and kamikaze drones. There are no confirmed of these F-16s use for offensive actions and strikes yet, but F-16s have been spotted around Ukraine. We've also got news that the Slovak Prime Minister has threatened Ukraine to cut off power supplies to Ukraine if Ukraine stops transporting Russian gas to Central Europe, reports Bloomberg. So the halt in Russian gas supplies to Ukraine will cost Europe 120 billion euros in 2025 to 2026, said the Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico. This will lead to higher gas prices in Europe, furthering weakening the European economy, he warned. We've also got news that the US has supplied Ukraine with up to 500 ATACMS missiles, but only about 10% of them remain, so that's about 50 units. While effective, the missiles didn't shift the course of the war or cause the feared escalation. The US and NATO officials urged Ukraine to use the remaining missiles more selectively and more carefully when targeting. So Ukraine has about 50 ATACMS missiles left in the chamber, reported by New York Times. And that's all the news we've gotten from Ukraine today. We've also got news coming from the Baltic Sea. That's the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has announced that NATO will be strengthening its presence in the Baltic Sea due to possible sabotage of undersea cables. So Estonia actually requested the NATO to deploy a deterrence fleet in the Baltic Sea following the cutting of a submarine cable, the Prime Minister of Estonia stated. So NATO will be increasing its presence in the Baltic Sea with its military and maybe its navy. So I'll keep you updated on that. We've also got news today that the Danish Prime Minister says that stockpiling food fearing Russian aggression. So the Danish Prime Minister has revealed that she's been stocking up canned food and emergency supplies over fears of Russia might launch a massive cyber attack. The Danish Emergency Management Agency advises all Danes to start stocking up. So this is reported by Pravda EU. And the next news coming today is coming from Germany, where we've got news that the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has stated that Germany will play an important role in guaranteeing security for Ukraine, but won't send soldiers to this war. We've also had news yesterday, but we will just really quickly repeat it today, that the German president has announced the dissolution of the Bundestag and the decision to call early elections in Germany for February the 23rd, 2025. So if you don't know what the Bundestag is, it's kind of the German version of Parliament, but obviously it's called Bundestag. And the next news coming today is coming from Kosovo, where we've got news that Kosovo has reported its first ever monkeypox case after a man returned from Africa. So the breakaway province of Kosovo has reported and recorded its first case of monkeypox or mpox in a 30-year-old man who visited West Africa. So he was hospitalized with classic symptoms of fever, chills, and ominous skin lesions. So he is now stable and he's in a stable condition. So Kosovo has reported its first case of monkeypox, and now let's go to the United Kingdom, where we've got news that Trump is to become the first elected official to be hosted twice by the royal family. Donald Trump is set to become the first elected politician in modern history to receive a second invitation from the royal family during his second presidential term, according to the Daily Mail. So the visit is unlikely to occur before 2026, as the Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the Foreign Office are reportedly preparing an invitation for Trump upon his return to the White House. We've got some news come from Georgia. That's the inauguration ceremony of the 6th president of Georgia has begun in the Parliament building. So people around the world do not actually recognize this new president of Georgia as the legitimate president of Georgia. So he's despite that, the 6th president of Georgia is now done his inauguration to become the 6th president of Georgia, and obviously he did win the vote in the Parliament of Georgia by the Georgian Dream party. So he received the required 200 votes to be elected as the president of Georgia. So he is seen as obviously a pro-Russian man from different countries and politicians in Georgia. So very big news, and I'll keep you updated on that. We've also got some news come from Syria. That the Syrian leader has stated that liberating Syria secures regional and Gulf stability for 50 years. Elections require a full census and may take 4 years. Constitution drafting will span 3 years for a lasting framework. We've also got news that the new Syrian leader has stated that the negotiations with the SDF, the PKK, YPG militants continue to resolve the northern Syria crisis. The Syrian Defense Ministry will integrate Kurdish forces, and the Kurdish people are inseparable part of Syria, and Syria will not become a base of PKK attacks, and there will be no division or federation in Syria. So the Syrian president is now stating that the Kurdish-controlled northern Syria will become one country with the main part of Syria. We've got news that just in today, that's the new authorities, the HTS rebels and the new authorities of Syria in Damascus do not want Russia to leave Syria, as it could harm relations between the two countries. This was stated by the leader of the new authorities of Syria, who also emphasized that Damascus has strategic interests with Moscow. So the new authorities of Syria does not want Russian equipment and Russian military to leave Syria, but I think Russia might be going anyway. We've also got more news of Syria, that pilots of the new Syrian army are successfully learning how to fly helicopters and have already begun patrolling along Syrian coasts. So we've got these videos here in the bottom left corner where we're seeing the new Syrian army now training with helicopters and learning how to fly helicopters again. And the next news we have received is coming from Egypt, where Egypt's Suez Canal, amid Red Sea tensions, have seen its revenues nosedive by more than 60% in 2024, amounting to a staggering 7 billion loss. Obviously, due to Yemen, the Houthi forces targeting commercial shipments in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. This has resulted in less trade shipments going through the Suez Canal, and this has actually put Egypt's revenue in the Suez Canal down by $7 billion. So the Suez Canal has seen a nosedive of revenue, down by $7 billion. The next news we have received today is coming from Chad, where France has withdrawn more troops from Chad. So another 120 French troops have left the Chad airbase of Nanjimeh airbase. And we've also got news that French Mirage 2000 fighter jets were also withdrawn along with the 120 French troops. And the next news we have received today is coming from Afghanistan and Pakistan, where we've got news that the Taliban are apparently mobilizing on the Pakistan border. So we've received videos of massive deployment of Taliban military convoys to the border with Pakistan, and we've even received news today that the Taliban actually seized several checkpoints on the Pakistan border in a retaliation operation launched this morning. So clashes in the Khost and Paktia provinces reportedly left 19 Pakistani soldiers dead, along with 3 Afghan civilians. So tensions are rising within between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and there is local firefights and local conflicts happening along the border with Pakistan and Afghanistan, and reports are showing that this has the potential to go burn into something huge. And the next news we have received today is coming from China, where China has tested and unveiled its new drone called the Wuzhen 9. So the drone is designed to counter stealth targets like the F-22 and F-35 fighter jets and the B-2 bombers. So these drones are able to fly over 20 hours. So the Wuzhen will serve as a radar system to detect stealth aircrafts and enhancing China's early warning capabilities. And the next news we have received is coming from South Korea, where we've gotten some unfortunate events that have unfolded at the Monan airport in South Korea. So our South Korean airline Jeju airliner has reportedly crashed on landing after hitting a bird. So the plane, which arrived from Bangkok, crashed into a fence beyond the runway because its landing gear failed to deploy, Yonhap News reported. So according to Yonhap News agency, 173 passengers out of the 175 passengers on board aboard the crashed plane in South Korea are presumed dead. We've got some news coming from Japan that Japan plans to increase its defense budget. The Japanese government has approved a record draft budget for next year, accounting for $730 billion, a 2.6 increase from the current year, according to Kondo news agency. So Japan, a NATO partner, is aiming to increase its defense spending to 2% of its GDP by 2027, as per NATO requirements. So Japan has increased its defense military spending. And the next news coming today is coming from the US, where Biden has yet again gone on holiday, marking 570 days that President Joe Biden has gone on holiday in his presidential term. So the US President Joe Biden has spent 570 days on vacation while as President of the United States, marking 40% of his presidential term as the United States President on holiday. So it's very big news, and it is now going up. And Elon Musk actually writes that the actual number was 100% on his social media platform X. And that's all the news I actually have for you today. I am Unseen News. I'll try and provide you news that medias around the world do not show you. I do these videos hopefully daily, so consider subscribing and liking. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.